when you think of live action, it's like you write something, you shoot something, you edit something. It's very linear.
Right.
Animation, it's cyclical. It's like writing and filming or animating are happening around you constantly, and you're kind of like the nucleus hub of the project. So basically, I would get storyboards from a board artist after they pitched it to the director, and then I would cut that together with like temporary voices, usually me or my producer, temporary sound effects, temporary music to kind of best sell a scene. And then we would like, or they would rewrite it constantly. And then we would eventually land like a year later at like the final boards. We send that off to our animators, and then they would start to send us. I thought like when I was in animation, it's like, oh, you send the boards and then you just get brand spanking finished animation. Not how it works. You get like
Mhm.
a rough pass. It's like, oh, the characters are kind of cleaned up. You get like the rough animation, which is like, okay, this is like the movements they're going to be doing. You get like the cleanup, the special effects that are in there, the flat color pass before lighting, and then you get your final one. And all of those have various stages. So even I think in that class, I showed like a very simple shot of like the cat running, and that had like
Right.
13 versions over 2 years before we got the finished shot. And that's a very simple
Right.
shot, not like an animated fight is a perfect example of something like where there's like so many versions and so much restaging and so many different like ways of cutting something. Like when people ask me like, why does animation take like 3 to 5 years? A lot of it is all of these processes take a certain amount of time, but it's also like when you juxtapose images together, which is our job as an editor, sometimes this doesn't fit next to that and you have to like open things back up. Or one of my favorite things, even when I've cut live action fighting, is like, I'm sure you guys have done this too, where it's like if you have like a punch going across, you cut out like a frame of it and then it
Hmm.
like looks faster, or using certain sound
Yep.
effects, or like speeding little things up here and there. So it's like even when you're getting finished animation, you're still chopping it up and like making things faster or slower, or repeating things or stealing a mouth pose to put on here. It's like there's a lot of amalgamizing that happens throughout. And yeah, you do kind of wear a lot of hats. Like I'm a sounding board for the producer and director as they're reworking a scene. I'm a script supervisor when we're getting animation in, and like Damien doesn't have enough teeth there. I'm like I helped a lot with like I would like I have a bit of music experience, so I was kind of like the in between of my director and our composer. Of like my director would say like, I want something more sad, and I was like, well, you probably want something more minor key, like little things like that where you're
Mm.
kind of are wearing a lot of hats within a production. But the big thing is just telling a story and trying to make something that makes someone laugh or cry or angry or whatever emotion you're trying to elicit.
That's cool.
So I have I mean, this is a random question. Like I'm an old school guy, when it comes to animation and cartoons and stuff. So when I have a picture in my brain of what you do,
Mhm.
I have this old school picture of like,
Yeah, like the 3 layers of the thing or whatever.
so so what does it look like now? Because before you guys kind of all used to be next to each other and used to like hand it off, right?
Yeah, that's a great
So
question.
so how does it? Yeah, how does the whole process work now?
Yeah, I mean, I
Because
can't speak for
you could
because
just send
I'm.
it. You can be in fucking Guam on the beach.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Which tragically, I mean, there is a lot of stuff, outsourcing and stuff like that, anyways. But it is like honestly, animation editing looks a lot like what you guys probably did for like your Troy thing or stuff like that. Like we edit in Premiere, and it's very like you have your visual timeline up top of like, and I have like a track that's all the storyboards, and then I have a track for each of the new versions of animation we're getting. And then
Mhm.
my audio is just, it's like anybody else. I just separate it in chunks. Like here's my dialogue, here's my music, here's my sound effects, and then the stuff we're getting on Merry Little Batman, I believe the animators were using a mix of Harmony and After Effects. So they would send me like just a QuickTime file of like, here's this one shot. Like the way we would work back and forth is like when we locked the animatic of the movie, I exported like every single individual shot of the film. Like it cuts
Mm.
to Damien, this is an export. It cuts to the cat, this is an export. It cuts to a Batman, this is an export. It's like whatever
Wow.
there is, like thousands of shots. I export each individual one, and we give that to the animators, and they're also receiving all the stuff that the rest of the crew did. They're getting the storyboards, the character designs, the background paintings, the color script, the asset list, like all of the things that we give them of like, here's the blue, like the job of an animatic editor really is like, all of this is temporary, it's all going to be washed away. Here is the blueprint for everybody else to do their job. So we give that to
Interesting.
animation, and then they start to give it back to us in each like individual piece. And they usually don't do it in one. They might do it on the show we're doing now, but on the movie they didn't, because it's like there's little things that can happen when we get like a new pass of something where it's like, oh, you guys missed this thing we had in the storyboards, or oh, we actually thought he was going to turn this way, not this way. And
Mm.
it's really expensive to do that at like the finished color stage. So it's like
I
at
was
every
gonna ask,
step.
yeah. I was
Yeah.
gonna ask, how committed are you? Because like, so like, right when you do live action,
Mhm.
you'll get all these various takes. of a scene from this angle, from that angle, from this angle, from that angle,
Right.
and then you as the editor get to kind of pick the one that helps tell the story best.
And if you
Yeah.
don't like it, you can be like, you know what? I want it from this side. I feel
I
like
mean,
in anime, when you're just like, you know what? I wish we could shoot it. Okay, they're shooting this way, but like, let's do an over the shoulder. You can't just.
no,
Yeah,
that,
like are you getting art before you make the animatic? Are you getting art from different angles
oh,
or
absolutely. I mean,
yeah?
so basically, from even further back, so we have like a script, and then the director partitions it out into a certain amount of scenes, and then gives those each to a board artist, and they all like interpret it visually or work with the directors, kind of. Because our director Mike Roth is an animation legend. He was like a board artist on SpongeBob, like OG SpongeBob. So it's like
Dude, it's funny you
he's very
say that
involved in stuff.
because there was the Merry Little Batman had a very SpongeBob feel to it.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah, yeah,
intentional. Me
yeah.
and Patrick Stump, I think we were the only two people on the crew that didn't come from like Adventure Time or regular show. So it's like it
Oh,
definitely has
right.
that kind of vibe. But like, but they partition it out to all these board artists to interpret visually, and then they'll send me like not even every shot, every pose is a JPEG. So if like there's a shot of me like picking up a water bottle, it's like here's a pose of me talking to you, here's a pose of me lifting it, drinking it, putting back on the table. That's like 5 poses. So it's like I'll get all the key poses, and then it's up to me to kind of decide, well, am I like slowly bringing it up, or am I doing a quick gulp and putting it away?
Hmm.
Fight scenes are exactly the same. So it's like I get all of this raw data, and then I choose the timing of these minute things, and then me and the director work together to kind of build that out. And as we do that, sometimes there are things where Mike's just like, I really feel like we should be seeing this in a wide, or oh, this I think this should be more dramatic. Can we like try it from like an overhead angle or something like that? And usually him or our creative producer Drace, or even like another board artist, they're in the Zoom or they're in my edit bay with like a Cintiq, which like you draw on and stuff, and they're
Mhm.
able to be like, got it, yeah, let's try this. Or we can send a revisionist and be like, oh, we want Batman to like squint and it'll like look cooler, and they're like, got it, we can just mock that up. So we did that for like a year, where it's like we're still like nitpicking and trying different things. In fact, depending which, if you show like a Merry Little Batman thing I sent you, the penguin fight is a great example of this, because like that went through so many revisions. Like first it happened in a cave, then it happened in a sewer, then it happened in a
Right.
truck, and then it's like the motivation was this, and it's like, so all of these scenes, it's like they're boarded and boarded and boarded and boarded and boarded, and we have that luxury which you don't in live action, right? But there is a similar thing where when I've worked in live action, I think DPs hate me because I'm always like, I know it took a long time to set up this shot, but it doesn't work, so we're not going to use it. Sorry. Animation's kind of the same. In fact, I remember actually my first pitch on Harley. Brandon, one of the really talented storyboard artists, we were actually doing like the Harley plastique scene, and he had board, it was like twice as long, and I think like the producer or director mentioned like, oh, I think we'll lose this and this, and it was kind of a throwaway line, but he said something of like, yeah, when I board stuff I kind of assume half of it's going to get cut. And I think
Mm.
that's probably kind of similar for like you guys in
Yeah.
a way, where it's like, like even on set it's like it depends on which pieces work. The thing with
Yep.
live action is like, yeah, you can really like choose where stuff goes. Animation is kind of the same, but it's like the board artist is kind of dictating where shots happen. Sometimes I'll move stuff around, or I'm like, oh, this is a really cool shot, I want to use this as a reaction shot over here. But I'd say like weirdly in animation I have more control over like the audio edit than the video edit.